Good morning, everybody. My name is Mike at Filmboy24, and today we're going to take a little sneak peek, but pretty in-depth, look at the Keystone K-55 Mayfair edition. That was way overly excited. 16mm magazine camera. So before we get started, first let me say that my daughter Piper is probably going to interrupt us more than once. See, she's already warned me. It's just me and her at the house today, and she's already warned me. She was kind of playing around in my little studio area here while I was prepping.
Hello guys. Today we're going to be filming. Then we're going to be checking out cameras.
She's already warned me that I'm going to get in there and just, yeah, okay. So I'd say there's about a 92.374% chance that she's going to sneak in and say hello. Anyway, with that, I hope everyone had a magical and merry and happy Christmas. If you don't celebrate Christmas, then I hope you're having a phantasmic end of December or holiday season. If you don't celebrate any holidays at all or just nothing, well then, hi. Anyway, I hope you're ready for 2023. I know I am. Although 22 was a pretty good year for me. Met a lot of very, very, very cool people. One more very cool people. And I have a lot of big plans for 2023. Namely, check this out. Don't hold me to it, because when you hold me to things, I don't end up doing them. But I have all intentions of developing and producing my very own Super 8 16mm automatic or semi-automatic film processing machine. You see, I want to up my game in 2023 because my results have been kind of the same and sort of just plateaued throughout my entire YouTube life. They've gone up a bit because I went from, sort of Wolverine scanning to MovieStuff scanning, and in January of 2023, I'm supposed to receive my brand spanking new MovieStuff 4K scanner. And wouldn't you know it, don't say I didn't warn you. Are you chewing? What are you eating? That's Cheez-Its for those of you that don't speak 7. Are you going to allow me to finish this video today?
Never.
What is wrong with you? All right, say hello and say goodbye.
Hello.
This is Piper. You're going to see more of her on this film right here in just a few minutes. All right, love you. And that was Piper. I do want to, I feel like what I need to do to up my game is sort of figure out my home processing. I'm good with it. I'm happy with it. I do want to, kind of want to do expired film a little bit better. I do all of my own chemical mixing when it comes to ECN2, and I'm not sure. I feel like Will Ferrell in Talladega Nights. What am I supposed to do with these? I want to sort of up that game a little bit. Maybe I'm overusing my chemicals sometimes, and I've been getting a lot of fogging. I actually considered maybe not releasing this video just yet because of this particular film. I made sort of, you call it a mistake, whatever, but here's Piper again.
I'm coming again.
She's back. She's gone. I feel like what I'm missing in my personal film adventures is a way to continuously process movie film, and maybe start thinking about getting away from the spiral processors like the Lomo. I love the Lomo, and I think they do reasonably well for just at-home processing, but I really want this one. You know, the one that goes through all of the tanks and it does all the work for you, or at least most of it. So I have to tell you, that's a goal for me. I want to buy another TIG welder. I used to TIG weld aluminum a lot. I used to have a shop, and I did a lot of machining type work in the past. So I'm fairly proficient with aluminum and gearing and sort of that kind of thing. I have some like a mill and lathe and things like that. So hopefully we get that project started and hopefully finished by the end of 2023, really. We got a ton more found film. We're going to finish the Cameraman Mike's sound film box set, I think, in 2023. We're going to push through that. We got like 30 rolls left. Big plans for 2023. Also want to mention, since I'm talking about things, let me start by saying I have zero affiliation with Silver Grain Classics. They do not sponsor this video. They do not sponsor me. They're just really, really good people. And I say that because I've spoken online a few times and in person, Zoom, with some of their people, and they're just the kind of people you want in your life when you are an analog junkie like me and you. If you're not familiar with Silver Grain Classics, they did a little article on me, an online article, a couple weeks ago. I'll put a link to that beautifully done article in the description of this video. And they also sent me one of their magazines. This is the Winter of 2022 edition. This is released 4 times a year, every 3 months. They put a hard copy magazine out. And I got to tell you very quickly, this is not what I was expecting when they sent this to me. I was expecting a sort of a people magazine type magazine, not a, I would call this a keeper, a collector's keeper. This is a coffee table, one that you don't put coffee on because you don't want to spill it. That's why I'm going to put this over there when I'm done telling you. This is such a beautifully done magazine. I mean, you got to check it out to understand what I'm saying. It even smells good. Very glossy, very thick. They don't cheap anything in here. The art. You settle down. When I'm in the middle of something, chill. Very thick pages, you know, like the good stuff. Anyway, that's enough about this. Check out Silver Grain Classics. What they do for the analog community is just amazing. So it's become part of my daily read online. Check out the new articles. They put them out all the time. And like I say, they maybe one day we'll have a little collab with them and we'll do something in the magazine. I don't know. It's not my magazine. So what we have here today is a camera that was sent to me by a subscriber. He sent me some film work to do for him, some pay work, where I would, I think it was processing and scanning some film for him. And he sent me a couple of cameras actually, but he sent me this one. Didn't have lenses with it, but it didn't matter because I have plenty of little C-mount lenses. And he said, maybe you could take some money off the price of the processing and scanning if you want, and we'll give you this camera. Well, one of the rolls of film that I developed for him was a roll that he shot in this, a magazine film. So I said, sure, send me the camera. I'd love to take a peek at it. So he sent me this camera, and when I got it, like I say, he only sent me 2 or 3 rolls of film to process and scan. So when I got the camera, I looked at it, and I got to tell you, he way undersold it because it's in beautiful condition. And I just ended up saying, I think that's an even enough trade for me. I got this camera, and it ran perfectly, and everything went well with my testing. So I decided it was time to put it through its paces and tell you a little bit about it. It's a Keystone model K-55 Mayfair edition. See, it says Mayfair right on the bottom there. 16 millimeter magazine camera. What's a magazine camera, Mike? Glad you asked. A magazine camera is a camera that takes magazines like this. This is an all metal. I don't think they ever made any plastic ones to the best of my knowledge. All metal magazine that Kodak produced, and it came preloaded with 50 feet of 16 millimeter double perf movie film. Most of the time it was black and white film because this camera was produced in 1951, so it was, it was in the 50s when you shot this kind of stuff. If you didn't know, if you're new to film, 16 millimeter was actually the original amateur home movie format. It wasn't Super 8 millimeter. That didn't come until 1965. This was your original home movie format in both reel form and magazine form. So what I did is I took a couple of magazines. There's one in the camera now. And I said, I want to test this camera, and I'm going to use a roll of film that I've never used before. And I have a few rolls of this. I think maybe about 8 or 10 rolls of this that I got, I don't know when, a year or 2 ago. And I don't know how it was stored. I know it predates Vision stock, but it's EXR film, and EXR film was a really good quality film stock for its time. In fact, many motion pictures were shot on this stuff right here. So what I did is I took two of my favorite magazines, this one included, and I opened them up. And if you want to know exactly how to load one of these magazines, I'll put a link to a video that I did, like a year or so ago, where I open these up and I actually load them up. You can reload these magazines yourself. They're a little tricky, but once you figure it out, they're really not that bad. So I loaded two of these magazines up. I took the young lady that was standing here about 5 minutes ago, Piper, her little friend, and my wife, and we all went to a local city park. And we ran around the park a little bit. The girls had fun. They were feeding the birds and the squirrels and everything. And I followed them around with the camera. Now, in hindsight, you know, the 2020 thing, I probably should have used like a, I don't know, like a 72-22 or, you know, a pretty good stock. I have an abundance of black and white negative stocks that usually I get pretty good results from. I probably should have used that because this stock just doesn't age well. Any of this old color ECN2 stuff, once it gets, you know, this is, I'll tell you in a minute how old this particular roll is, but once it gets past 20 years old, unless it's stored frozen its whole life, yeah, you're going to see in a minute. Anyway, so I took it out and I did some filming. So what I filmed with was this camera. Let's get back to this. This is the Keystone K-55. It's a very simple camera. Like I said earlier, it was produced right around 1950, maybe 1951. When it was released, it retailed for about $150. Now, let's convert that to today. That would have been somewhere around $1,700 or $1,800. Minimum wage, to give you sort of a gauge, was about 75 cents an hour back then. So 150 bucks for a camera, and it came with one lens. I mean, that was a pretty penny. I mean, it's like buying an Aries today. Anyway, it's about 2 3/4 to 3 1/4 pounds, depending on the lenses and whether or not you have a film cartridge inside or a film magazine. Now, in terms of grams, for those that aren't in the US, that's 1,200 to 1,500 grams, somewhere in that range. It does have this swanky little 2-lens turret right here on the front. What that means is you can have a long lens and a short lens, or wide angle and telephoto lens, and has this little lever right here in the front. Not lever, it's a little rod here, and you pull it. Boom. See, it's on a little spring. You pull it and you twist. Snaps into the other lens. That's just how you change lenses, nice and quickly. Boom, boom. Easy. And guess what? Guess who's here?
And guys, I just wanted to say, this is Ellie.
That's Piper and Ellie. That's her favorite little playmate.
Ellie, say bye. Ellie, say bye.
Ruff, ruff. Okay, I promise to limit the interruptions from now on. She just loves to say hi. Frames per second. This will run at 12, 16, 24, and 64 frames per second. Sound like a robot. It also has single frame. What you do with this, now I'm going to pop the cartridge. There is a magazine. I keep calling it a cartridge. There's a magazine inside here already, and this is the other one that I loaded. And what you do is you just slide this little switch, this little button right here on top. You slide it, and the door just sort of pops open. There's a little button right here in the top right-hand corner, and you push it. I hope it doesn't fall out. Boom. It did fall out, and the cartridge just pops right out. There's the inner compartment, very simple. There's your gate inside there. Close her back up. This is not a battery camera. It's not an electric camera. You don't plug it in. You use the old wrist power, and you crank her up. Well, it's fully cranked. So I don't recommend really running these at any sort of higher speeds, really more than about 12 to 16 frames per second. If you don't have a magazine inside here, it's just not really good for it. You know, I was off, by the way. A second ago, I said it had 12 frames per second. It's 8, not 12. So 8, 16, 24, 64. Maybe it's all the Piper. So let's put it on 8, and then pulling down on this little spindle right here runs her at 8 frames per second. Back up, stop it, and you can kind of lightly press like so that you can control it. And when you let go, the camera stops. Boom, boom. Pushing up is your single frame. Can you hear that? I'm sure you can. Just like that. Now this camera is not a reflex camera. In other words, when you're looking through this tiny, tiny, tiny little viewfinder piece, this little eyepiece on top here, you're not actually seeing what the taking lens is seeing. You're seeing, it's sort of that parallax, which parallax just means different fields of view, two different fields of view. So the parallax up top, the finder, looks through this little piece right here. Well, your lens looks from down here. Now, speaking of lens right here, the lenses that I currently have on this camera, they didn't come with the camera. You got a 25mm lens when you bought this camera brand new. I do have quite a few little C-mount lenses. And I will say, with this particular camera, since it has this center post here, you are a little bit limited as to sort of the diameter of the lens that you can put on here. So you can't experiment with like SLR lenses with adapters and things like that because they just won't fit. But a lot of these older, just standard Wallensack or Wallensic, whatever, however you pronounce it, a lot of those lenses will fit. The Bolex lenses will fit, or the Paylard lenses will fit fine. What I used for this roll of film right here primarily was this little 25mm. This is a Bausch & Lomb. You know, the Ray-Ban people? Well, they made lenses way before they made Ray-Bans. This is a Bausch & Lomb f2.7 25mm lens. Now, in terms of sort of what the camera sees, if you were to equate that to like a modern day SLR, I'm pretty sure that's going to be about a 50mm lens. So it's not super wide. You want a wide lens, you got to get yourself a 6 or an 8mm. This is a 75mm lens. This is that classic Wallensack. Very kind of a lower end grade lens, but they're very popular and they're inexpensive. I didn't use this one a lot because even though the viewfinder, which I forgot to mention, on top, it has this little switch up here, or this little slider, and what you do is you slide it, it goes from 17mm all the way back to 75mm. So if you have a 75mm lens that you're shooting with, which is right here, then you want to slide this dial from the front all the way to 75mm. And what that does is that moves a little glass element or plastic element inside the viewfinder to either give you a wider or a more narrow frame of view to sort of tell you what the lens is seeing. So I would keep that primarily up here at the 25mm, and I kept that on 25mm, the lens. That's basically this camera in a nutshell. It does have a 1/4-20 tripod socket right there on the bottom, or as my dad would say, right chill. Handy little handle. Handy handle. A handy handle. And like I say, there's not much to this little camera. It's a great little carry piece. Very ergo. The viewfinder is tiny. These cameras were not known for their big, bright viewfinders. They're really little, tiny viewfinders. But this one's nice and clear. Whoa. The light right there. So what did we film? Well, like I said earlier, I filmed Piper and her little friend, and my wife and I, we went to a local park. They ran around the park and fed the birds and turtles and whatnot. And here's what we got on this extremely bright, obnoxiously bright orange reel here. Like I said, I almost was going to shoot another roll before I release this video, but you guys are kind of used to the sort of the results that I get out of this really old stuff. When I process this in my homebrew ECN2, which I also did a video for, right up there, a lot of fogging. I think this was stored very poorly before I got it. It does have an edge code on it. The edge code was a T and an F. And according to Kodak, that means that this particular roll was manufactured in 2001. So this roll was, 21 years old when I shot it. That's a long time. That's a long 21. Where were you 21 years ago? Were you even alive? Sadly, I was. That wasn't even half my life ago. So anyway, here's what I got. all right? Having a bit of fun. That's what we got. Like I say, now you see why I considered maybe redoing it. But it does at least tell me a little bit about the registration and the sharpness of the lens. And by the way, this lens I didn't tell you earlier, it's a fixed focus lens, which makes things a little bit easier. As long as you're at least 4 or 5 feet away from your subject, things are going to be pretty crisp. And I kept it somewhere around f8 in that range for the most part. It was a pretty decent day out. So as far as the, the overall look, had the film turned out well, processing wise, I think it would have been a success. I love this little camera. Thank you. You know who you are for giving it to me. I plan on using it a lot more. Well, I hope everyone has a fantastic new year. Make sure you do it safely. And if you liked this video, that's the one I like to do right there. Hit that like button for me. I don't think it turns blue anymore. I just like the color of it. And if you feel like I've earned it, how about that? Right there. Subscribe. Hit the little bell too. Then you'll know when I upload, because I'm not on a really regular schedule for uploads. Well, until the very next time that I and Piper see you again. You want to do this one? Mm-hmm. We'll probably both see you on the very next go-around.